What if hiring could be easier, more streamlined, and less time-consuming, so even when you're busy, you could still be smart about the way you hire? With ZipRecruiter, you can post your job to over 100 of the web's leading job boards with just one click, so you can rest easy knowing your job is being seen by the right candidates. Then, ZipRecruiter puts its smart matching technology to work, actively notifying qualified candidates about your job within minutes of posting so you receive the best possible matches. That's why ZipRecruiter is different. Unlike other hiring sites, ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on the right candidates finding you, it finds them. And it's no wonder 80% of employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site in just one day. ZipRecruiter, it's the smartest way to hire. Find out today why ZipRecruiter has been used by growing businesses of all sizes and industries to find the most qualified job candidates with immediate results. And right now, my listeners can post jobs on ZipRecruiter for free. That is right, free. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/M&M. That's ZipRecruiter.com/M&M. One more time to try it for free. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/M&M.
Want an easy way to see if you could save money on car insurance? Geico gives you 3. Call 1-800-947-AUTO. Go online to geico.com or stop by the Geico office nearest you. 3 ways you could save 15% or more.
Here we are. We're back in better than ever. Mike and Mike, presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. A weird Wednesday with so much great stuff going on in our world of sports. Dodgers on the brink. Yankees come from behind, all this NFL stuff, monster college schedule this weekend, and, of course, basketball back, which was fabulous until 5 minutes into his tenure in a Boston Celtics uniform, Gordon Hayward's foot was facing the wrong way. Goal like that was very, very tough to watch.
Oh, it was horrible to watch, obviously for a lot of reasons. Obviously, first for Gordon Hayward, and I always feel bad. I look at it from the athlete side, which I do a lot of things, and know the work that goes into preparing for a season is obviously all done in the off season. You go through that cycle of when a season ends to building your body all the way back up as high as you can get it before you start tearing it down again. And that's where the blood, sweat, and tears is. It's in the off season. Nobody's watching, nobody sees it. And then you go out there, and the expectations obviously for a team are high, which we'll get into. But for the individual, obviously there's the pain of just watch it, of snapping your ankle. Let's be honest. I mean, it had to be an unbelievably painful thing that he went through. But then there's that realization, like, my God, everything I did 5 minutes into the first game, I'm done. And now what starts to go through your mind is the hurt, the rehab, how long it takes. You look at Paul George when he broke his tibia. It took him 8 months. There was no ankle involved in that, a dislocated ankle to go along, and here was a dislocated, fractured ankle and tibia. So have no idea of the time frame. I'm sure we'll get that, but the lonely rehab I always talk about. But just in that instant, all that work, everything just done. I mean, it's just so physically it looks awful, but mentally it's just going to just destroy you, and then how quickly you can come back from that. I just felt horrible for him from the overall standpoint. When you look at the gruesome injury, obviously you feel bad, but to me, there's just so much more to it.
Yeah, we'll show it to you here on ESPN2 for those of you who haven't seen it. They're asking me to warn you that it's not pretty.
No, it's not.
And I'm guessing that by this point, many people who are sports fans have seen it because it happened not relatively early in the evening last night, so it was all over the place. And there's no other way to describe it for those of you listening on the radio. Perhaps you're in the car. Perhaps you hadn't heard about this yet. His foot is just flat facing the wrong way.
Yeah,
there's really no other way to describe it. And the look on his face and the look on the faces of the other players around him, I mean, everyone recognizes basically immediately what has happened.
You know exactly what happened. And one of the most fault, and I'm not blaming any player for this. It's kind of a natural reaction when you see something. And in our own hot list, it says teammates for Boston and Cavalier players rushed to check on him. They didn't rush it. They turned the other way.
Initially.
I mean, they all went over by him, obviously, after things calmed down, but you could see it. I mean, they saw it. As an athlete, you don't even need to be an athlete to know what was going on here. And I'll tell you what, when you start parsing this thing down, dude took it like a man. Let me tell you what, he obviously screamed. I shouldn't even say it that way because there's many women that, I've seen injured that take it in a very, very tough fashion as well. He was strong about it as he was sitting there. I mean, I was amazed as he's looking down at his ankle going the wrong way.
The injuries of recent vintage, well, it's a terrible word, but I can't think of a better one, we're much more accustomed to seeing injuries that look like that in football.
Yeah.
Like the Odell play, his foot didn't come out of it looking like that,
didn't.
but it's
it
what you expected.
Yeah.
It was the same kind of thing where it just folded in the wrong direction. That almost never happens in basketball. The play you're talking about with Paul George in the Olympics, it wasn't the Olympics, but in one of the international competitions, was one where he hit the stanchion.
Hit the stanchion, right.
So,
exactly.
So that, he hit something.
Right.
In this case, to come down and have your leg fold up under you in a basketball game, you just never see that happen.
No, you don't. And then his weight came down on it to dislocate and break it. And, I mean, it was gruesome. It absolutely was. And in that one play, obviously, as I just talked about from the individual side of it, and then from the team side of the direction that it changes, what the expectation is, and then just how quickly, and that's the one thing you can predict everything you want. But you never can, never was able to, and never will be able to predict injury and just what effect that's going to have.
That's the thought that I have as well here, is that first and foremost, you feel terrible for him. It's a terrible injury, and you just wish him the best. And then once you get past that, you start thinking about the impact on the NBA season.
Yeah.
And you think to yourself, I mean, this was a team, our basketball power index, our nerds that we affectionately call here, the analytics people here, favored the Celtics to beat out the Cavaliers, not in the regular season, but to make the NBA Finals. I mean, this was I guess you would say, a championship contender in the NBA. And the Golden State Warriors are so overwhelming a favorite, it feels funny to call anyone else a legitimate championship contender. But if anyone else is, I guess they were. And in one blink of an eye, they're not. Unfortunately, they're not. He's down. It's horrible for him. You wish him the best and hope he comes back. Yeah. And then you also say to yourself, you just scratch the Celtics off the list of teams that you could see, making a really significant push this year.
There were so many combinations we were looking forward to, and we saw two of the teams and those combinations of players. You saw it in the second game that was aired last night with Houston, with Harden and Paul together. You'll see it, obviously, with Oklahoma City as well. The combinations, and this one is done. I mean, so much so. And this is just the reality of sports. It's what especially Vegas does. You put out odds. Entering the game, the Celtics were third best odds behind the Warriors and the Cavaliers at 10-1 to win the title. After the injury, it's 20-1. I mean, and you certainly understand why. It seems harsh to talk about that, but it's going to go on, and that's what's going to happen. Now you're going to talk about, and that's what is going to happen, because the games are going to continue to play. Injuries happen. This one was just more gruesome than we normally see, but guys get hurt and miss time all the time. So you just next team in. Who's the next team that will maybe challenge Cleveland, if anybody, in the East?
Look, this is the second time this week we're talking about a major injury, right? You could have just taken out what you just said and inserted the name Aaron Rodgers,
right?
And it was 2 days ago, and you and I were having the same exact conversation.
Right.
We opened the show on Monday talking about Aaron Rodgers with a broken collarbone, and he's out for the year. And now we're talking about Gordon Hayward with a dislocated ankle and fractured tibia in one of those where, again, usually I jokingly say, go look, you're a football player, so I turn to you for a medical. I didn't need help with this one. This one, the second you saw it, no one was wondering, boy, I wonder if that's a serious injury.
We weren't waiting for the medical report on this one.
That's terrible.
And it's a shame. It is really, really a shame. 5-some minutes in to the start of the season.
All right, let's hear from some of those involved in this. Here's Brad Stevens, the coach of the Celtics, after the game.
Obviously, you hurt for him. He's put in a lot of great work, and I thought he had his most comfortable week as far as feeling like he was going to play really well. And, but now we'll, hopefully get a full recovery, right? And so it's it's a tough deal, but, I guess that's part of it, the risk of injury. But I really feel for him.
So, I mean, that's it from a personal standpoint, is recovery. What's hardware, has to go in there, for the ankle, for the break in the tibia. How long, as I mentioned again, Paul George had the fractured tibia. That was 8 months. This is a break there, as well as the ankle dislocation. So, don't know. I mean, I'm not even going to delve in it. It's going to be a long time. There's no doubt about that. And it's going to be a rough, obviously, rehab. And, you do. All you can do is wish the best for him, and then unfortunately, he will kind of go out of everybody's thoughts as he starts to do a lot of the rehab on his own, recovering rehab, and the season rolls on.
There's a lot of tweets. I mean, the entire sports world and beyond, it felt like, was tweeting thoughts on Gordon Hayward yesterday. A few of them that stuck out for me. One of them is on the screen right now for those of you watching on ESPN2. The Utah Jazz, quickly and classily, I thought, sent a nice message to both Gordon Hayward and his wife, Robin, that you can see again on your screen. And Connor, did you see Connor Barwin's tweet to him?
Yeah.
Connor Barwin tweeted a picture of himself, the NFL player, of himself, in what can only be described as a very similar-looking injury. He suffered a gruesome-looking broken ankle or leg. I don't know what it actually turned out to be, but one of those where his foot is facing the wrong way. And he tweeted, "I missed the entire season with this injury. I haven't missed a game since." You're going to here it is on our screen now. First series, first game, 2010. Missed entire season, but haven't missed a game since. That's one of those. And so I thought that was a great tweet from Connor Barwin.
I completely agree. Again, the picture there, if you're on the radio, if you want to check that out, the picture, again, his foot is going the wrong way, is Connor Barwin. But coming back from that, and that's where I immediately went. Listen, there's the team aspect that we'll talk about. I just always think of the individual and the work that went into it. It's never good to get an injury like that. I don't care when it is in the season, but just the thought of, my God, right when you start the season, it's just starting and all the promises there, and boom, it is done.
Here's Kyrie Irving after the game.
I've seen a few injuries in my career, and I've had a few, and I've seen a few, and probably two of the worst ones I've been in the game of watching. One was at USA, and this one was tonight. So, it's not a great sight to see, but you got to pick yourself up and just keep on fighting, man. We understand that God willing, we'll be fine. And we're going to continue to pray for him, man, be there for him as best we can.
I have not personally been on the field and seen an injury that gruesome. I've seen knees get blown out, but, the knee looks, the look of it is there, but inside, obviously, it's torn up. I have seen a dislocated kneecap where it's moving around. I've seen, dislocated fingers, but you basically pop those back in and usually keep going. Probably the worst one I saw, dislocations just look awful. Dislocated elbow. I've seen that a couple of times. Then they just look bad until obviously you get them back in place. But, man, a dislocation with a break. I mean, I haven't been on the field for something that looked like that where you're just like, oh, my God, something is literally pointing the wrong way. It's just horrible. And you could just see the reaction of the other players around there who all eventually they did go over and certainly – wish him the best and such. And
players from both teams.
Both teams, absolutely right.
The other thing, Mike, as we listen to Kyrie there, the story of the night was supposed to be Kyrie Irving's return to Cleveland, and I did think that was interesting. Before the game, Booger asked me yesterday, what do you expect the greeting to be between LeBron and Kyrie before the game? And I said, I believe they will dap up but not show love.
Yeah, it was businesslike. It was what it was.
But then after the game, they had a nice moment.
After the game, Kyrie, from the game standpoint, Kyrie had a chance for a game winner, tried to take it over LeBron. I think it was the only time LeBron actually guarded him in the game, and Kyrie missed it, and they had a moment there. After the game was over, hugged it out a bit, and that was that. Before, it was just the quick, businesslike dap as before a game starts, and then they move on.
They had he had nice moments with several of his former teammates. You saw a nice moment with him and Kevin Love and that. So, again, that was what last night's story was supposed to be going into the game in Cleveland between these two top teams in the Eastern Conference. Clearly, coming out of it, that is not the story. I have one more I want you to hear. That's from our Brian Windhorst, who was there.
This is as an emotional night as you'll ever see at an October game in the NBA. Opening night, Kyrie Irving coming back to the Cavs, and then just a few minutes into the game, a horrific injury that rattled every single fan and every single player on this court tonight. Gordon Hayward, after suffering the dislocated ankle and fractured tibia, was taken back into the Cavs locker room. The ankle was reset by Cavs doctors, which is very important, I have been told by sources, in getting the process started in his recovery.
That had to be a moment. Resetting that ankle, man. I mean, and I talk a lot about in a locker room where players will sit there, something bad will happen, and you'll say, well, not going to happen to me. That's never have I said that related usually to injury. It's usually something outside, somebody getting in trouble or something like that. Not going to. That's a reality check as players sat there and looked at Gordon and are thinking to themselves, that could just as easily have been me. One misstep, one plant wrong, land on it wrong, and that could be me sitting there. There is a stark realization when that's sitting right in front of you of, man, that quickly it can be done.
We are Mike and Mike, and right now at Lowe's, Pro customers can save on the supplies you need most from the brands you trust to help get the job done on time and on budget. Visit lowesforpros.com for details. The staff is actually asking a question, and I think it's a pretty good question. Because you have seen bad injuries in the NFL. You've seen guys taken off, immobilized on the stretcher and all of that. How hard is it when that gets done? Everyone's praying. The whole building is silent. In your case, it's 80,000 people instead of 20. You're having that moment. You're walking over and you're consoling the guy, even on the other team. It's a moment where everyone steps away from the competition of the game and into reality. And then the whistle blows, and now you're asked to go right back into the reality. I always wonder that. How hard is that to do?
Well, you have to reset. You have to hit the reset button. Usually before a game, there's the kind of to your opponent, we're going at it. 60 minutes, it's going to be a battle, okay? After, when somebody gets carted off or when you see an injury like that, there's a realization of, could happen to any one of us, any one of the 22 that are on the field, both on my team and the team you're playing against. So there's a moment of, hey, recognition to even the other team of, this is, we understand where this goes. But then you have to hit the reset button. You have to go. I mean, the worst thing in the world you can do is go less than 100% when you keep going. I can't sit there and say everybody can get it out of their mind, and be perfectly right when you go back. But I know when I see it, you have to kind of reset to the beginning of the game again, and you really got to go everything out that first play and get right back into it, because you play any less than that, especially, we saw the physicality of what happened there. But in football, every play is like that. You're taking on people. It can end badly for you. So it's not the easiest thing in the world to do, but if you make it to that level and you're playing long enough, you have basically seen this, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's a stretcher coming on or taking a lot of time before somebody goes off the field. So you've had to restart before. You've had to go through your mind of, man, that's horrible for him. That could have been me, and having to reset. So you kind of get used to resetting. This is just a little more of a wow moment to have to reset from, but I think they're pretty much programmed to do that.
All right, we're Mike and Mike. We're presented by Progressive Insurance. Great guest list today, and we'll be trying to get some more basketball reaction for you as well. But we do have on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line Sal Pal from these NFL meetings of yesterday, which I'm really looking forward to hearing the inside into what went on there. You've heard some of the reports. Gruden and Herb Street back-to-back, as we always do in the second hour. Chris Singleton is doing the Yankee series on ESPN Radio, and Charles Barkley on the Basketball Today. So let's do we'll do all those and much more as the morning continues. Let's do off the top, though, because we'll run through some of the other headlines here. It does start with Gordon Hayward again, Mike, dislocating the ankle, fracturing the tibia, in what turned out to be, in the end, a tight Cavs win in an opener over the Celtics. Yeah,
Cavs win at 102-99. Again, Kyrie tried to put up the shot at the end to keep that game alive and ended up missing it, but that was the bad news, as we talked about with Hayward. Kyrie had 22 in this one. Jaylen Brown had 25. LeBron James was 1 assist away from a triple-double, 29 points, 16 rebounds, 9 assists. Pretty wild game to look at, obviously, the Kyrie with Boston. And then when you see Derrick Rose, Dwayne Wade, and LeBron James all on the court together in the same uniform. Pretty wild there as well. But as we'll get into, the offense with LeBron, Dwayne Wade, and Derrick Rose on the floor is a work in progress. They were outscored when they were all on the floor together, 41-36.
Off the top.
The other game last night, for the second straight year, the Warriors lose their opener at home.
Yep, they do. James Harden, big in this one, going for, 27 in this one. Chris Paul, just 4 points, but he had 11 assists, tweaked his knee a little bit, was left out in the last under 5 minutes of the game. Didn't look like he was overly thrilled with that. But again, when both of them were on the court, and this is what you're looking for, and you're looking for when the chemistry will hit with both of them on the court, the point differential was negative 13 in this one. And for Golden State, as we mentioned, the loss again, Draymond Green just missed a triple-double in this one, 9 points, 11 rebounds, 13 assists, but he strained his knee coming to the end of the third quarter, and he is that spark plug of that team, and there's a noticeable absence when he is out.
Off the top.
To football, Zeke Elliott has been granted a second TRO, temporary restraining order, against the suspension. So now it appears he will play this weekend. It's becoming very difficult to follow the legal wranglings of Ezekiel Elliott.
Yeah, it really is. So we're going to have to get people to help us out with this one. Bottom line is he can play until there's a next hearing, and the reason there is a next hearing because the judge who hears that is on vacation. So we're in the vacation mode right now. So Zeke is playing, and this thing is held up, so we'll see how long he can play. The hearing could be within 14 days. It could take 14 days, could be less, but we know Zeke will definitely be playing this weekend.
Off the top.
Baseball and the Dodgers are one win away from making the World Series for the first time since 1988 as their pitching continues to dominate the Chicago Cubs.
Yeah, absolutely right. A big win for them, and this starts out with the Cubs and Schwarber getting that home run, and you think, okay, the bats are starting early in this one, but it was Darvish. He goes into the seventh inning, 7 strikeouts, gives up just 1 run. And for the Cubs, listen, their bullpen's got a 5.73 ERA. As hitters are 0 for 11, 6 strikeouts with runners in scoring position. Bryant and Rizzo, 22 at-bats, no RBIs between the two of them. So the bullpen not getting it done. Their big hitters not getting it done at this point, and they're on the verge of getting swept.
Cubs in big trouble. Yankees looked like they were in big trouble last night. Down 4-0, and then Aaron Judge hit a home run, and then they broke the gates open, and they wind up getting a win to even up the ALCS at 2 games apiece.
Really just amazing what's going on here. I mean, in the late innings for them, first 6 innings, no runs, no extra base hits. 7th and 8th inning, 6 runs, 4 extra base hits. Judge and Gregorius are the 2 that are doing it. Judge seems to have figured it out. Again, either striking out or, like last night, knocking a laser over the wall and then knocking one into the wall for a double. Very impressive. Sanchez has 3 RBIs as well with a laser down the left field line. So Yankees looked like they were going to go down 3-1 in this one with Keuchel coming up for Houston.
It was over.
To end this thing.
They had the worst inning you've ever seen in your entire life.
Absolutely horrible.
They gave up 3 runs with only 1 ball being put in play in the entire inning.
I've never seen so much catcher interference this postseason. It was unreal.
It was a walk, a catcher's interference, a walk, and then a double up the third base line.
Yeah.
And they looked like their season was over.
Yep,
I mean, Keuchel, but the Astros bullpen can't get it done. If the Yankees can get into the bullpen, they win. It's as simple as that. If Keuchel and Verlander can beat them, then they beat them.
Yeah.
If the Yankees can get into that pen, they have an excellent chance. And that is off the top. And the MVP moment of the week, let's give it to Judge.
Yeah.
Once again, with no life in the building whatsoever last night, Aaron Judge goes long, and that got the Yankee comeback started. Aaron Judge, he'll be a finalist. Well, they don't do finalists, but he'll get some votes for MVP this year, and he'll get our MVP moment of the week, brought to you by Sport Clips. Help fund scholarships for U.S. veterans. Donate to the Help a Hero program at a Sport Clips near you.
His double, he was almost on a knee. He went down low for the ball, was almost on a knee. He hits a double off the wall with some fan, inexplicably some younger fan, reaches down into the wall and hit the ball. But what a laser shot that was going down low for it.
All right, it is an extraordinarily busy day, obviously, with all of the basketball and the injury that was there and all of the baseball and tons of football news, including the answers to the following questions. Did everything change for the NFL yesterday? Did anything change?
Hey everyone, Mike Golick here. Support for Mike and Mike podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. With Rocket Mortgage, you can apply simply and understand fully so you can mortgage confidently. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLSconsumeraccess.org number 3030.
I just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I've never felt more alive.
Disclaimer. Geico cannot guarantee you will feel more alive. You either possess functioning respiratory and circulatory systems, or you do not, or you are a zombie. If you are indeed a brain-starved zombie and you would like to save money on car insurance, the Geico legal team applauds your excellent life choices, even in your shambling afterlife. But we strongly encourage you to visit geico.com or download the Geico app. Please stay a minimum of 500 feet away from our large and presumably delicious, delicious brains.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
All right, as I mentioned, there's just so much going on around the world of sports with Gordon Hayward and all the baseball. And then, did everything change for the National Football League yesterday? Did anything change? Those are the questions for our Sal Pal, who was in New York yesterday, where the owners and the players met in what Jim Trotter called a landmark day for the National Football League. So, Sal, good morning, and we'll give you the floor. What can you share with us about, to the best of your understanding, what was accomplished in these meetings and these conversations yesterday?
Well, Michael, I think you had an unprecedented level of face-to-face dialogue between the players and the owners on social justice issues. They met for more than 3 hours, about 11 owners and about a dozen players in the commissioner's office, with Roger Goodell in attendance, with DeMaurice Smith, the NFLPA executive director, in attendance. These kind of face-to-face discussions and talks and open dialogue just don't happen on a regular basis. So I think in that sense, I think Jim Trotter is right. I think this was a watershed moment yesterday for the NFL. But in terms of taking concrete steps towards solving this issue, I think they still have a long way to go, and a lot of owners believe that, and so do a lot of players that I have talked to within the last 36, 48 hours. So, you got to go back to last week when the commissioner sent that memo to the chief executives and club presidents of every team. And the first paragraph of Roger Goodell's letter says the current dispute over the national anthem is threatening to erode the unifying power of our game and is now dividing us, our players, from many fans across the country. And, it is a tacit admission that the demonstrations during the protest is not only hurting the game, but it's eroding their business. And they want to extricate themselves from this controversy.
So along those lines, a lot of people were wondering, coming out of that meeting, and just what you said there, with less and less players are kneeling for the anthem. We know Jerry Jones obviously came out and said what he said. If you kneel or disrespect, do anything like that, you're not going to play. So did anything concrete come out of that meeting as far as the national anthem and players having to stand, or what?
Well, we're in day 2. We're still at the Conrad Hotel. The owners are still here. They have it on their agenda, Michael, for another day, for about 2 to 3 hours worth of discussion. So what was presented yesterday to the players and what the players presented to the owners, and then what Roger Goodell's staff presented to the owners yesterday afternoon, are some action items. And we're told that included in those action items are an expansion of the My Clause, My Cleats initiative, so that players will have an opportunity to voice whatever concerns they have about social justice on the field. Community outreach by the National Football League and the NFLPA in unison, so that players and the NFL can partner up with police officers and law enforcement in the community in distressed areas of the country, so that the NFL's partners in that. Public service announcements, those kinds of things that allow the players and the league to partner up so that these issues are brought to the forefront within the NFL community. And I think yesterday, and this was really important, the letter of support that Roger Goodell and wide receiver Doug Baldwin sent to Senate Judiciary Committee yesterday, to Charles Grassley and to Richard Durbin, supporting the Sentencing Reform and Corrections Act of 2017, I think was an important step. It showed that the league and the players are in lockstep on this issue and want some kind of reform to come out of Congress. Now, it's in some ways, is it, a ceremonial thing? Sure. But for the players and the owners, I think, to come together on this, it is without a doubt, to use Jim Trotter's word again, watershed.
Mike and Mike, Sal Pal is with us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Get instant gold status at Shell. Join the Fuel Rewards program now at fuelrewards.com/gold. Sal, I saw conflicting statements on whether or not Colin Kaepernick was invited to be a part of yesterday's conversations. What can you tell us? What do you know?
Well, what we know is that the players did invite Colin Kaepernick. That's pretty clear. But, I don't know how much of that is going forward going to be a major contributing factor to whether or not they get this issue resolved. Because if you listen to Colin Kaepernick's lawyer and what he said yesterday, and, warning the NFL to make sure that they still have all the digital footprint of any conversations or emails or texts that may have taken place within the framework of Colin Kaepernick signed or not signed, so that he can prove his case of collusion, that may be a non-starter for the NFL in terms of having Colin Kaepernick involved. But the bottom line is, they want the players to stand, and Roger Goodell said that in his memo on October 10th. It's right here. I'm reading from it. Like many of our fans, we believe that everyone should stand to the national anthem. And I don't know if you heard Goodell only took one question yesterday, and it was from me. And I said, did you get a commitment from the players yesterday to get them to stand? And he said, we didn't ask for it yesterday. And it's pretty clear that if they had asked for it yesterday, they wouldn't have gotten that commitment. I think that's the bottom line, is when the visual of having the players kneel and or sit or have demonstrations during the anthems is something that the league wants to go away. And there's no bigger visual than Colin Kaepernick for that.
Sal Pal, who mentioned, again, there will be more meetings today as the owners continue. The players go back to their teams. The owners will continue to talk, and Sal will continue to have the coverage. Well done, Sal. We'll check in again.
Sal.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, so, Mike, I just wanted to also briefly mention that I thought it was significant that Jerry Jones was not in the room. If you notice the list of owners who were in that room, and Jerry Jones is – I don't mean it to sound this way. His fingerprints are on everything in the NFL.
They are.
Right? He and Kraft feel like they are the most powerful people in that sport. And I thought that considering where he put himself in this discussion, in this whole debate in the zeitgeist last week, I thought it was significant that he was not part of that yesterday.
And I didn't think the NFL in that meeting yesterday, which was going to be I think everybody wanted it to be a positive and stay positive meeting. I didn't think the NFL were going to ask the players in the union, hey, we want you to stand. I didn't think that was going to come up. We've already heard Eric Reed from the 49ers say he's going to continue to kneel for the anthem. Less and less people are kneeling down for the anthem and the ratings are down. Listen, the ratings are down. There's no doubt about that. Through the first 6 weeks of the NFL season, total viewership is down 7.5% compared to the first 6 weeks last year, and 18% from the first 16 weeks or the first 6 weeks of the 2015 season. Earlier this month, not too long ago, Jacksonville Jaguars, their president drafted a letter and apologized to the military in Jacksonville for them kneeling in London, standing for God Save the Queen and kneeling, and the players that knelt for the national anthem when they were in London playing Baltimore. They wrote a letter to the military apologizing for that. There's no doubt the NFL wants the players to stand, but they weren't going to ask for that outright, because I think that would have then turned that meeting contentious. And I don't think they wanted that. I think they wanted to go forward and let's say, okay, what can we do going forward? Listen, and we just had Adam Silver on. He just sat there and told us that the league and the union in basketball are working in all 30 cities together to implement things. And I think that's a positive thing, because at the end of all this, no matter where you are in the protests and the disrespect of the flag, are they, aren't they, your thought, they're right, this and that, is the initial message getting lost? That needs to be the dominant thing here. What's the message the players want to send? We know the message they want to send. They're telling you the message, but is it getting lost because of the controversy of what people think when they kneel? So maybe the important thing is to get to the cities, the 32 cities, to have the league and the players working together to work on what the issues the players say that they're protesting for. But I think in all of that, I don't think when they were discussing that in a positive way that the league was going to say, okay, we're going forward with that. How about you guys stand now for the national anthem? I didn't believe they were going to take it that far, because I thought they thought there would be some pushback, and I don't think they wanted it at that meeting. I think they maybe want it to happen organically, that the players will stand more if they see things going in a positive direction between the league and them. But I don't think this Sunday you're going to, as I just said, one player said he's going to continue to kneel. How many more will? It's becoming less and less players that are kneeling, but I don't know when you're going to get them all standing again.
So that's the latest from the National Football League meetings. And again, Sal will be there again throughout this day, and we will have further coverage of that. Twitter reaction here at Artillery Man tweets at us, even without Hayward, if Tatum and Brown develop by the second half of the season, the Celtics will still be in the Eastern Finals. That's possible. I mean, let's see what Washington is. Let's see what Toronto is. There's a few other places to look around here. But to me, what happens yesterday is you go from the Eastern Conference being a two-team conference to being a one-team conference. Yeah. You go from, and again, the first and foremost headline here is the injury to Hayward. It's horrible for him, terrible to see any player have their season end 5 minutes into the opening game. But if you want to look at it from the big picture NBA standpoint, when I woke up yesterday, I would have told you I could see two different teams coming out of the East and playing in the finals. And now I can only see one.
Yep.
Is that fair?
Oh, yes. I agree with that. And even with Hayward, I still thought the Cavaliers were going to be the better team. But at least I'm with you on the shot that Boston would have. So now you hope it heals properly and come back to play, because I do like what they were building with the young players there. Tatum, how about Jaylen Brown, 11 to 23 last night? He led the team with 25 points. You got to like what you saw there. Obviously, with Kyrie, you're going to get some scoring. He had 22 points and 10 assists in the game. They were a couple of good games. It looked like Cleveland was early blowing out Boston in this one. They came back, take the lead in the third quarter, and then Cleveland eventually wins it. And even the late game, you saw Harden scoring like crazy as well. How about the leading scorer for Golden State last night? Was Nick Young. Swaggy P was leading. Coming off the bench, he scored 23. Steph Curry had 22 in this one. But as I just mentioned a little earlier, Kevin Durant's got the game winner that goes in if it leads. He had one little pump fake at the end that cost him. So the ball didn't get out of his hand in time. And it was a good call. It was the right call. It didn't get out of his hand in time, but it would have been the game winner, and they lose it by a point, 122-121. So what you're looking for now is, again, the meshing of players, how Kyrie fits into Boston. And I'll say it again, when that starting lineup, Kevin at center, Kevin Love, LeBron, the normal LeBron, and then Derrick Rose, Dwayne Wade, Jay Crowder, it's like, wow.
It's an all-star team.
I mean, it was really, really amazing.
I mean, that's what Jordan was talking about the other day. And again, not to belabor this point, but it is the overwhelming factor. Basketball, the good news for them is they've become a national sport. Baseball has become increasingly regionalized, where people pay enormous amounts of attention to their own teams and not so much to others. Basketball, both because of the overwhelming and magnetism and star power of their superstars, and the fact that there are only like 8 relevant teams, has become the ultimate national sport. I mean, the Cavaliers are an all-star team. The Warriors are an all-star team. You watch them go out there, and you know every single player on the team. You know them like 8 deep.
Right.
And then there are teams that they will play this year that you won't know any of the players on their teams. And that, in the big picture, I don't think that's a good thing. But it's clearly working for them. Yeah, so what does it matter what I think?
We'll see tonight. Minnesota is at San Antonio, how Jimmy Butler fits in with a lot of people have expectations for Minnesota. Parker and Kawhi Leonard are out tonight for San Antonio. And then Thursday, getting the former player going back, you have New York at Oklahoma City.
Right.
So Carmelo playing against his old team. But then again, the meshing of your MVP Westbrook and Paul George and Carmelo.
I was looking to see when December 16th is when Oklahoma City comes to the Garden. I wanted to see when Carmelo would come. I was thinking that'd be an interesting game to go. I'm sure that'll be a tough ticket to get. Mike and Mike, all that Twitter reaction again through the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. In fantasy football, you're never guaranteed to win, but you know what's always a chip shot? Surprising loved ones with 36 autumn roses for just $36 from 1-800-Flowers.com. To order, go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN. I was going to get into all the Yankees-Astros sound that I have, but I don't have time for it here.
Right.
So I'll save that for a few minutes. Guys, tell me in my ear, do we have the Ramona Shelburne thing that she said about the Golden State injuries? Because that was one thing. Of all the things that came out of yesterday in the NBA, we do not have it. Okay. So of all the things that came out of yesterday in the NBA, the worst, obviously, is the Gordon Hayward injury. Nothing's even close to that. But the other thing that I heard that I did not like, we had Silver on this week, and he was talking about, changing up the schedule, and hopefully less resting and all that kind of stuff. We had Steven Jackson in here yesterday, Mike, who was terrific, by the way. And he was talking about how he hates the resting also. He thinks we'll see less of that. Well, Ramona Shelburne, and we're having some technical problems, so we'll get the soundbite ready for you as quickly as we can. Ramona Shelburne said she talked to some people in Golden State who said, we will be resting it like crazy. We're going to go full San Antonio Spurs mode. If anyone has so much as a sore thumb, you won't see them anywhere near the court. And I just thought that was disheartening. Like, even if you're planning to do that, why would you say it?
Why would you say it?
Why would you say that at the beginning of the season?
And that's why I asked Adam Silver, how quickly will you come down on a team? But if a guy's on an injury report, your hands are tied a little bit. As I said, you can come out with a rule or what somebody says they're going to do, and then you find ways around it. So you put them on for, like I said, for a thumb or an ankle or whatever, and say, I'm going to sit him, and what is the league going to do about it? That's where it's going to get really interesting.
There's nothing they can do. They have to count on the fact that people recognize that this stuff matters.
Yep.
And if they don't think it matters, there's nothing they can do about it. All right, Gruden coming up. Stay there. Mike and Mike.